Hello everyone, my name is Fogbound Turtle, or FBT for shorts, and today I want to talk to you about Clear2Land. Is an application that me and a friend of mine worked on, and it's a deep career mode for Flight Simulator and XPlane. And right now we're kind of like in the default view, which is the map, and I'm not connected to the simulator right now. I'm just going to give you guys an overview of everything that we see, and we'll talk about what this thing is right now on the map. But let's start with just like the overall interface of what Clear2Land offers. So obviously this is the map. This is where it will track your aircrafts. Here you have the choice to connect to Microsoft or XPlane. We do support German, Spanish, and French. We're still working on the translation, so it might not be what it needs to be, but we're working on that. You'll have your flight telemetry, time and estimated time of arrival. For those who like Flight Radar 24, when you have a route, we'll give you a link directly to the IATA of that airport on Flight Radar 24. You'll have your METARs and you can refresh them. And then some useful information about where you are in the world, right, at this very moment. Okay, so let's talk about pilot profiles. So there's quite a lot to digest in this screen. I'm not sure how good of a job I'm going to do because there's just too much. I don't want to go too long. But the goal is you create a pilot and you have a headquarters. And you can fly as a pilot, but you can also, build your own empire within the sim, and it's quite a lot on that front. One thing you'll notice is we're tracking. So I have on this profile, I have 12 hours of flight, and I have earned a significant amount of money. And you'll see something like credit score, and that matters, and I'll talk to you about that later. Where my location of my pilot is, and pilots are persistent, so you can relocate them if you like to. Now, I'm gonna skip maybe certification process right now. I'll talk to you about that just a few minutes later. Okay, so this is the kind of job I flew on this profile. Just a few jobs. And you'll see that it will kind of draw like the spider web of your career, depending on what kind of mission you have, and this is kind of like an Easter egg of all the types of mission that kind of exists in this game. So there's quite a lot. We'll let you discover what those are. So passenger will leave review on your flight. So, and the way we do this is we have a cabin simulator. Maybe we can talk about that when we go to the job board, but basically what it is that based on, flight characteristic, how much you flew, whether you were exceeding, climb FPM, or you were jerking the aircraft around, or you landed very hard. We do have quite a few that we track. And we did a summary, but you actually get a certain percentage of passenger leaving you reviews, right? And you can read some of those. I'll let you discover that. I don't think anybody wants me to start in reading reviews. And then we have tons of achievements that you can have. And I haven't talked about difficulty level, so let me go back to that profile and let's talk about that. So, in this game, you have 3 difficulty levels at this moment: casual, intermediate, and hardcore. Now, I'm gonna skip hardcore for now. Let's start about casual and intermediate. So, basically, you make more money, and we're more lenient on errors and how we judge you based on your profile level. We just want to be an application that is accessible to everyone, whether you're a newcomer or you're an experienced flight simmer. And one of the things that we do is that if you want to progress in the game, you have to earn it. And you have to do a certain amount of hours, and then you can pass an exam. It is a real written exam, and you have X amount of time to complete the exam based on where you're at in the certificate. And also, the questions are easier and casual. They get much tougher as we increase the difficulty level. So we have kind of like some level of adjustment so that it doesn't feel too hard for a casual to get their TPL license versus somebody that's more experienced, or maybe a real pilot. One of the things that I haven't mentioned yet, all of these things can be enabled or disabled. So you could basically say, I don't care about higher hours requirement or doing the exams. I just want to fly the aircraft I want. In settings, you can disable everything. We offer you a lot of options so that you don't feel like you're stuck. You're not interested in the progress mode. You just want to have your TPL and just fly the airliners that you like. Go ahead, be my guest. We're not blocking you on that nature. Everything you do in the game is basically logged in the logbook. Everything that happens, so you'll see your financial activities. This is more like a complete ledger. And then you have your job history of what you've done, how much money you've earned. And I'll give you an example of a job that I just did for testing. And you get a job debrief, and you get some passenger review comments, you get some statistics. So in this flight, you can see that my landing rate was 157 FPM, and I had to get a landing score of 100 because I was only about 4.2 feet away from center line deviation, and I was in the landing zone, so a pretty decent landing on this job. How much money I've earned, what was the sim rate. I suggest people not to play with sim rate. It just causes havoc with our cabin simulator. But it's written there. If somebody does it, I know it's going to be in there. And then you'll see, a bunch of statistics and scoring and the comfort score from our passenger, and how many passenger I had in the flights, how many reviews I received. And one other cool thing that we have is basically, let me just scroll it. This is kind of the flight that I did, and then I have all the data that we've gathered during the telemetry, so you can see, how we got there. And all of that is always saved. So, whatever you do, it's there. I'm going to skip airline employment for now. I'm just going to go back to the job board. This is where you get most of the work. You can sort all the columns, and you'll have the types of mission you have. As you can see, I just click on type. You can click on distance, if you want to have a short flight or a long flight, or if you prefer helicopter or multi-engine, the choice is yours. There's one thing I want to mention is, you can see here is that we're not telling you should just use an Airbus 320 for this job. What we do is we've gathered and categorized aircraft based on the aircraft type. So narrow body jets like Airbuses, 737s, even 757, F-28, MD-82s, and these are all populated from the add-on that you have. I'll talk about that after, but basically the logic is you fly what you have, so we'll never put a job of an aircraft you don't own. So it's going to be there based on what you have. And then we'll give you a breakdown of how much it pays when you're flying it as an employee, and how much you're going to earn if you're a self-operator. If I own the aircraft, how much more money I'm going to make. And we give you a breakdown of the cost. So you just don't get the money. You actually have to pay for fuel. We have to pay for operational costs like landing fee and all a crew. And So basically, we kind of give you an estimate of how much money you're going to earn at the end if you complete the flight, and you have bonuses, so it could vary. But basically, it just gives you a breakdown of what you're going to get at the end. So at least you know from the start, if you fly as an employee, you might get $1,100. If you own the aircraft, obviously you make a lot more money. And the way we calculate that is all calculated by the numbers of passengers that we have in the aircraft. So we have 20 economy and 20 business. We calculate how much money that the airline would gain based on these numbers, and then that's how we come up with all of these self-operator numbers. So it's not number made up. We kind of figured out like what is the average cost price for a flight of this distance and these types of jets, and that's how we came up with these numbers. And so the employee mode is basically based on what is the normally hourly rate somebody would gain as a pilot if they flew these aircraft. So everything we do is kind of based on reality to a certain extent. Maybe we can talk about that when we look at aircraft marketplace, but reality sometimes is not very fun, so we kind of have to tweak these things a little bit to make it viable as a game. So we have our own flight planner, and we do use SimBrief, so we do have full SimBrief integration. So basically, we can take your active job, pre-fill most of the stuff for you, and you just calculate the flight plan. We'll fetch it for you. We'll save it, and then we'll even show the route on the map, so you'll see them when you're flying. So everything is great. Let's talk about the cabin layout preview. I think it's a pretty unique thing that we've done is we have an auto generators of layouts. So if I pick this, we figure out by reading the aircraft CFGs how much occupancy an aircraft can have, and how much business, how much economy normally they have, and we kind of auto generate layouts. So if you have a new aircraft we don't have, we're going to generate a layout for you. And one thing is that we also have cargo alls. So if you do a cargo job, instead of having cabin simulator, we have cargo all simulator. So basically, depending on what you're carrying, and of course, I made these drawings. They're not that great. I'm not an artist, but it's just kind of an idea of what you're transporting, and then you'll see, the health of this cargo. So you get a bonus if it doesn't, get damaged along the way. So it's part of the things that we do. Okay, so let's talk about our aircraft marketplace. I think there's going to be a lot of controversy around that, and I'll give you some things about this. So we put some prices for aircraft, and the reason they're not reflecting real life aircraft prices is because we ran some numbers. And if you do a job with a realistic rate like we have on the job board, and you try to buy a fly-by-wire A380X like you have here on the screen, we calculated that if you were on hardcore level, which is the most realistic in terms of earning, it will take you 48 years of flying to earn 150 million. So we think, well, that doesn't make any sense because, reality is that nobody who just flies an airliner could really afford to buy an aircraft to begin with. So we kind of took a different approach on this, and we decided, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the price so that after X amount of hours, somebody who plan carefully and fly well can actually buy or afford to lease some of these aircraft. So that's why the prices are not reflecting real life, because otherwise I have to inflate the number really high, or I have to decrease the aircraft prices. So we decided to go with decreasing aircraft prices, and we offer you an opportunity to lease. One thing you'll notice is that the aircraft are actually located where they are manufactured. So normally Airbus 388 are manufactured at KJSB. Boeing's at KPAE. So we look at where the manufacturer manufactured this aircraft, and this is where they are. So which means that if you buy them, well, now you have to go get them. So you can ferry them to where you are, or you can fly there by yourself and pick them and fly them back. So and pay for fuels. So we kind of have this mechanic that, you know, you can buy an aircraft, but you know transport's not included. You have to pay for ferry and transport, and so and it gives you estimated delivery, how much it's going to cost you in fuel and crew and operation to deliver this aircraft. So you buy it for $1 million, it's going to cost you $43,000 to bring it back to where you are. You know, and this is based on where I'm at right now, which is CYVO. So this will change for you. So it's kind of like an idea that, you know, you can buy aircraft, but it's not the end of the thing, is the beginning. We do offer the opportunity to have a bank loan if you need money. We'll give you an interest rate based on how long your bank loan is. Now, you might see two buttons here called File Chapter 11 and File Chapter 13. So if your debt is in default after 3 months, I believe, then the bank can start and seize your assets and pay themselves back, because you know this is a dynamic world that we've built, right? Nothing is for free. So you can file for Chapter 11 or Chapter 13, and it will liquidate your asset in order to pay themselves for the loan. So that's a neat feature that we've built in here. So let's talk about. I'm gonna skip op services because there's quite a lot. Well, actually, in op services, this is where you can actually rent an aircraft, and then we all do the renting wet. So if you don't have an aircraft, you can rent one, and then you can do a job. And then you're gonna earn a little more money. We do charge per hour, so you know you have to count for that. But yeah, you can rent an aircraft if you can afford one, and I'll tell you why that matters. And you can see my hub also has a reputation. We'll talk about that when we go into the headquarters. And then the aircraft that I bought an Airbus 320, and how much fuel I have in it right now, and what is the capacity of that aircraft. Okay, I know it's quite a lot. Let's talk about headquarters statistics. Okay, this is Johnny Depp headquarters, and I have some data that I've gathered around my hub, how much fuel I have, you know, how many active route, how many AI pilot, how many facilities, information. Obviously, as you grow your hub, you'll have a lot more information in here. So keep that in mind. This is my fleet right now. I have an Airbus, I have a Cessna, and you have maintenance history. And you can actually look at a work order that was done. So that was a maintenance that was done on this aircraft. We just added aircraft failure. So if some aircraft do generate failures in Microsoft Flight Simulator, we can read these variables, and basically we'll generate a work order based on what's broken when you land. So yes, we actually going to generate and force you to, if the aircraft is too damaged, to actually pay to repair it and make it fleet worthy. Also a bunch of other information, like you can ferry to your location, you can relocate an aircraft, you can plan a multi-stop ferry if you want to move a Cessna across the ocean, you can do that. So this is what it's used for. Just as you know, if you can just add your destination, so to calculate, you know, so if I want to go to LFPG, I can add that, and then I can add an intermediate stop, and so on and so forth. I can go on and build my route that I want in order to ferry my aircraft. Okay, so establishing a hub is basically like building like an FBO. We call it a hub because, you know, mostly airliners do create hubs. You can select the location you want. Obviously, the airport size matter about what you can and cannot do, and costs are more increase more when where the airport is higher, is bigger. Okay. So in Manage Hub, it's going to load a little bit because there's quite a lot of information. There we go. So we see I have rotations of routes, and these routes are back to back, right? So they're round robin routes that I've established from Val-d'Or to Montreal and back. How much money, how much gas I have in reserve, and I can order fuels. And this is my work order for my pilots, right? So that is the dispatch work order and the schedule of where they're going to fly, and then whether there's a weather hole, whether there's a delay. All of this stuff is called calculate. It's basically, the world is dynamic. It's never going to be just the same thing over and over again. We are actually getting from National Weather Services events. So if there is an hurricane somewhere, well, you may not be able to land there because, you shouldn't. And so that's the way we like to see things. We do have, as you can see right now, there's a weather hold for a job. I didn't make this up. This is all done, by the system. And it tells me here on top how much money I've made when I'm offline. So the aircrafts are flying offline, which brings me back to, I'm just going to go back to map real quick. And normally, you see earlier we saw an aircraft. There was actually my AI aircraft flying. Right now, it's not. It's on a delay. So, but that's what it was before. And you'll see them flying on the map because they're flying in real time when the app is open. But, they fly offline when your app is not working. We calculate that. We do a simulation of that. So, and also, just like a pilot, your AI pilots, and we'll talk about that in just a few tabs, will actually basically leave review based on how they did. So if they're more experienced, the chance that they'll have a better flight experience for the passenger, that's going to happen. Okay, routes is where you set up your routes. And as you can see, I set up a route of, it goes back, it's a return routes. Okay. And I can set the price of how much I'm charging for this flight, how many business class, what's the surcharge for business class, how much marketing money am I going to spend to try to promote this flight. As you can see, popularity right now is just 17 out of 100. I just started this route. It's not the greatest. The frequency of how many flights a day we're doing. Don't forget that, I haven't actually talked about that, but actually there's a fatigue system. We're following like what we call FTLs, which are, pilots only allowed to fly this many hours and this many weeks and months. AI is also abides to that rule, just like your pilot right now. So you can see it's off, so I can test things. But actually this works, so you might say, if you've flown more than 8 hours in a day or 10 hours, they might say, sorry, you have to fly tomorrow. Let's talk about employees. So this is my pilots that I've hired. This is how much it cost me a month, so $10,000 a month. He's not cheap. This is the total hours of experience that he has. This is his reputation. And if I don't like him, I can actually hire a new one. And because I'm in Quebec right now for the region, the names that get generated are mostly relative to the region. So if you're somewhere in India, you'll have more Indian names. If you're in Europe, you'll have more European names or Italian names or German names. We like to do things, in the most realistic way that we can. I have a mechanics that does the maintenance for me, and this is how much it costs me a month. How much experience he has and his skill rating. and I can hire. And as you can see, they all have specialties, so they are better at doing certain things than others. So if you're just doing regular maintenance, it might go faster for one mechanics to do the job than others. So there's kind of a little mechanics there. Pick the right technician, and then things might go smoother for you. Aircraft expansion. So you can actually buy parking bay, passenger lounge, fuel tank expansion, a cargo facility. You can view your mechanics that you have. And one of the things is that is pretty cool is that you can actually buy remotes or parking spot. And so this is my local hub, and then I can pick. You can see here is I'm owning this parking spot. And basically, when you are in game and connected, if you are at your parking or your gate, it will cost you less money because it's yours. If you go at a remote or a parking that's not yours, we'll detect it and we'll say there's a surcharge here. So there's a mechanic here around parking spot. You own them, and then it costs you less money. So that's what it's for. And so we do that using a little nav map data. It's kind of a requirement. That's almost mandatory to have like the full feature set of this application. And so maybe we'll talk about why it matters in the other video. One of the things is that I told you this is a dynamic world. So we have actually labor relations. So as you have more flight attendants, mechanics, and pilots, they may not be happy. They might want to form a union. They may want to have a raise. So this is kind of building over time. Right now, I'm not big enough in this profile to have this thing, but basically you have to manage your employee, and they might go on strike. They might ground you. You can negotiate early and their CBA so they can go back to making money. So this is kind of a thing that I know a lot of people might not know yet because they haven't actually reached that level, but it's kind of a mini game on there as well. And I've talked about world event right now. I don't have any, but they usually populate whether there's a winter storm, and you can see recent activity here at the bottom that there were some, and that were impacting, routes and stuff. Okay, let's talk about contract board. I know there's a lot of information. I feel like this video is going on forever. Okay, so in this game, you can actually bid a contract. You can win a contract to fly a specific route X amount of time per month and earn money. And you'll have penalties if you don't fly the route. So, yeah. And then what happened is you bid against other fake airlines. And so you're not insured to win the bid. So right now, my win chance is I'm asking too much, and it says your 0% win chance, your rep is too low. And so, as you can see, my requirement is up reputation, not big enough. I don't have a white body jet. So this is not for me. So I have to actually increase my reputation and win that contract. There are more lucrative contracts than just running routes. So yeah, it's kind of a design to test like how that works, because we thinking maybe we can do that in a multiplier where we actually have VA betting against each other. One other thing I forgot to mention, there's so many things. In routes, where you put your route matters. I didn't talk about that, but basically, if you build route in popular area when there's tourism, it's seasonal, and you have more people flying these routes in real life, you make fare better when it comes to these routes and make more money. So there's a strategy here in picking an origin and a destination route, and we look at that based on some data that we've gathered. So if you know a route that you want to fly that you know is popular, the chance you'll make money might be might be better. I'm just going to leave it to that. I'm going to let you guys discover that. This is all the competitors you have, all the airlines competing against you, and where they are located. Like WestJet right now, it's in these locations, and yeah, what's their reputation, how much money they have on hands, and so on and so forth. And so it's just to give you some intel about, you know, who can try to come into your market and make your route less profitable. And so that's kind of a thing that we've built so far. Okay, let's talk about scan aircraft, because I think that's a very important feature. So what we do is we just scan all the add-ons that you have, and we try to categorize them, assign them an ICAO, and put them in the marketplace, put them in the job so that you fly the things that you want to fly. And so you just click start scan, and it's going to take a few seconds before it starts going, and just finding all of the stuff, scanning all of the aircraft.cfg of all your aircraft, trying to find out what they are, and associated with the right database of data that we have. And you see right now it's scanning, and then it categorizes everything. It has discovered new aircraft, so I'm going to say yes, these are all. You see right now I'm having unknowns, and I'm going to skip them as unknown. Actually, they're actually not aircraft. This is one thing that is, they're just items that we should ignore, and my filter is not kind of having issue with those. So I'm just going to ignore them. There you go. So they won't appear. There we go. We're done. This is all the aircraft that we have. And I can see when I've scanned. So, and if you don't want them in your job board, you just filter them out. You can just type, you know, all right, I don't want a 777 in my list of jobs. So there you go. You can filter them out. One other thing that we do is the airport scenery scanning. So we are scanning for airport add-on that you have, and we try to build your routes that make sense, that fly you there, because I know people like to fly to aircraft location that they have add-on for. And so this is what it's for, and we can see them on the map actually. There are these yellow dots. These are custom airport that I have installed. And so they are putting routes there because I have these third-party add-on in these locations, right? So it knows that, and that's why we're doing that. And so that's why this option exists. Let me go through settings. We do support ACARS, by the way. So if you're using CPDLC with your aircraft, put in your login here. You can disable trophy achievements. You can disable circadian low penalties. We do have sometimes acknowledgement to done, so you can map a joystick button to it. And these are all like the difficulty levels, and basically you can disable things to your liking. Right now I'm not enforcing MEL, for example. I have no real-time rest timer or fatigue effects. I'm in Canada, so my regulatory profile is using Transport Canada. If you are in other area, FAA or EASA, the rule will change, so we do have that. You can make everything bigger. I know some people want to make every text element bigger. So as you can see, I just changed that. We also have like colorblind mode. That might blind people, but some people like that and they can see that, and that helps them. So we try to be accessible as we can with this application. All the passenger information, whatever you want, anxiety monitoring, cabin crew interaction, you want PA announcements, whether you want random, medical, emergency. That's an option I even talked about, which basically in a low percentage, it might have an emergency asking you to go to the nearest airport to land because it requires that medical emergency. So that's another feature that we've built. We talk about FTL, which is the fatigue time limits. Right now it's disabled, whether you don't want to do the exam, the cooldown, the hour requirements, all the bypasses there. On our temperament engine, so basically when you fly VIP flight, they just are more picky than regular flights. So we have a lot of things like pristine status requirements for landings. We also have this tool. So the little nav map airport scan is basically a feature that we've built. So we gather the data from little nav map, and it helps us with tons and tons of information that we couldn't get directly from Microsoft or XPlane. It's just easier. Now there's another option here called Scan Microsoft Checklist. It's a feature I'm going to build in the future. It was there, but it wasn't working to my liking, so I disabled it, but it might come back. And then we have SimBriefs, and we now have full SimBrief integration. So you connect, and then we save your token, and then we create and fetch everything from SimBrief. So this is what it's for. Yeah, so this is basically the basics, actually, of everything we support in this. And there's a lot more that I haven't talked about. There's Easter eggs and other things that's in there for you to discover. And I think I don't want to spoil that for you. So maybe the next time what we'll do is we'll make a flight and see how everything works. So thank you guys, and see you next time.